Nitro Express is a game developed by Greyfax Software and published by Playism. It is a 2D pixel shoot-'em-up game akin to Contra and Metal Slug. Like all games, it has its strengths and weaknesses, so here I want to talk about the good, the bad, and the 30 FPS capped elephant in the room. But first, let's go over the content the game offers. Upon entering the game, you are met with a charming main menu screen, where the game offers 8 main story missions, 20 side missions, and codex entries for all the characters and enemies you meet in the game. There's also a paperwork minigame where you just tediously spam the right mouse button to fill in the paper for a small reward. This is probably an analogy for how boring doing paperwork is, but they didn't have to commit to the bit this much. Oh, and finally you can read horoscopes that randomly boost the damage of a selected firearm. That pretty much sums up most of the game's content. Now let's discuss how good it is, starting with the story. The game is set in the fictional Nitro City, and here there exists autonomous drones called companions that are used for various construction and military purposes. But when the AI in these robots start to get a little quirky, I wonder where I've seen that before, it falls upon the anti-vehicle disposal squad to take care of them. You play as a member of this squad, Yoko Asahina, and the biggest difference between you and her isn't the fact that she's a cute anime girl, but the fact that she has a dog. Other members of the team include Tamaki Yagyo, the hacker, and Bunmei Yamada, the team's leader. Together you stop various companion incidents from going bad to worse, and even stop a bigger plot along the way. That's the basic gist of the story. Now in terms of its writing, well, it's pretty basic to say the least. It's mostly just an excuse to get players to shoot robots in different places. The characters are pretty one-dimensional and they don't really develop over the course of the story. It's also a little too short for that anyways, with the story mode only being 2 to 3 hours in playtime. Might even be shorter than that if you are able to complete it without doing the side missions to grind for better gear. So while it isn't a good story by normal standards, it is still an entertaining one. The characters are still charming despite their simplicity and have good chemistry between them. The pixel sprite illustrations are also very charming and expressive, so I do recommend giving the story a chance. You might enjoy it more than you think. Also, don't forget to press Q for MGS style codec calls. Most of the time they give you advice on the current situation, but other times it's funny banter between the characters. Now the gameplay here is where you'll really get the best bang for your buck. Like I've said before, it is a side-scroller shoot-'em-up similar to the Metal Slug series, but with 2 major differences. First one is being able to utilize equipment that uses up a rechargeable meter every time you use it. The real neat part here is the various equipment you can choose from, ranging from grenades and claymores to anti-tank rockets and flamethrowers. There's even a Spartan laser that I haven't unlocked yet. Of course, the more powerful your equipment is, the more it's gonna eat up your meter. Simple stuff. Though a complaint I have is the fact that you can only switch equipment when you change guns. Like, come on, just give equipment switching its own dedicated button. Now the second addition to gameplay is a tad bit more interesting. Weapons here are affected by the character's stance, so moving around and jumping decreases your gun's damage, while standing or crouching increases it. This also varies depending on the gun you use, with lighter firearms like SMGs having no penalty at all for moving and shooting, but don't get any bonuses for standing still. The opposite is true for heavier weapons like the LMG or the 50 cal, gaining a large increase to damage when staying still, but receiving a severe penalty for even slightly moving. I think this is really cool. Usually in these kinds of games, there's no reason to stand still, so you constantly move around to avoid getting hit, but now you have the option to hold your ground and deal massive damage. It also makes you think twice on your weapon loadout, since you'd usually want one weapon for agile shooting and another for heavy damage dealing. And with all these firearms available, you'd obviously need something to shoot at. Luckily, the game provides various different robots for you to destroy, from construction bots to the same drones being used in the Ukraine war. All these robots behave and attack differently enough from each other to keep you on your toes. Their attacks are also well telegraphed, with all of them giving off a red flash right before doing the attack. In short, they're all pretty well designed. On the topic of enemies, there's also a plethora of bosses for the player to fight. All of these bosses are quite distinct from each other, and they all have different gimmicks to test the player's ability in different ways. While none of them are particularly difficult, they'll still provide a good enough challenge for a boss fight. One final thing to note is that the movement is quite a bit slower compared to other games of the run-and-gun genre. While moving around the level at this pace isn't too bad, trying to maneuver through enemy attacks with the speed of a disabled snail can be a bit challenging. Thankfully, they added a dodge roll to compensate for how slow we move, and it works pretty well. All this results in a more methodical approach to the genre, where the game rewards players for finding a safe spot within the enemy's attacks to do some serious damage. Overall, Nitro Express creates a slower but still fun take on a classic gameplay loop. All of this is really good shit. It's just too bad you'll burn through all of the content before you even realize it. Aside from the story, which I've mentioned lasts about 2 to 3 hours, there's the optional 20 side missions you can do, which, depending on the type of gamer you are, either adds about 3 to 4 hours or can add dozens of hours to your playtime, since despite there being more side missions than main missions, most of them are very short, usually being objective-based missions, like instructing the player to protect a fire truck from being destroyed, or they just straight up reuse boss fights from the story mode with extra enemies added. While these missions can be fun, they don't really give you much replay value. Luckily, there are some that do, like the one where you do fishing with guns like a true man, and a survival horde mode where you fight a randomized set of enemies and bosses, and if you survive up to a certain point, the game will award you the Spartan Laser. So it's nice that these missions offer some form of replayability, since players can redo these missions with the goal of obtaining a higher score. Of course, not everyone will be incentivized to get these high scores, as some people just don't really give a shit about getting them, but at least the people that do will have something to strive for when they've exhausted the game's content. Now we arrive to the game's biggest downside, the frame rate being capped at 30 FPS. Which is weird because the game is capable of running at 60 using a mod that raises the FPS limit. Now the question is, why didn't the devs do it themselves? Well, some people over at the community hub have said that the higher frame rate causes some gameplay bugs, so the game seems only optimized for 30 FPS. This could be due to Nitro Express being built on the Game Maker engine, which has 30 FPS as the default setting and the devs didn't bother changing it. Or, this is just a theory, it could be a artistic choice to emulate the old Metal Slug games. A bit of a stretch, I know. Honestly, the real reasoning behind this decision could be anyone's guess. But a more pressing matter is the fact that the game doesn't even hold a steady 30 FPS, as it occasionally fluctuates and can drop pretty low. This really sucks, and while personally I can bear playing with these frame rates, I survived playing Elden Ring on a PS4, so I'm pretty used to it by now. I get why a lot of people are turned off by it. 60 FPS is just the standard nowadays, and anything below it is just not acceptable anymore. Now, about that mod which raises the FPS cap, well, the page to download the mod is currently unavailable. My guess is that the newest update, which is the 1.0.2 version, probably broke the mod, but it's not all bad as the update does fix various issues within the game, and it now seems to be able to keep a consistent 30 FPS. I know it's not a crisp 60 FPS, but come on, does a game like this really need it? At the very least, just try the game out first, because I believe the game is genuinely a fun, albeit very short experience. Besides, you can play as a cute anime girl that shoots guns in this game, which is something you don't see every day, although it is starting to become more common. Buy the game, I very much recommend it, although if you do not enjoy its first hour of gameplay, you should probably refund it as it is the game's main selling point. Anyways, that's all from me. Hope you enjoyed the video.